Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, please hit that sub button and join the family. Smash that like button if you enjoyed today's stories.
So this started like every other low-effort Tinder match where I figured I'd probably never meet the person. Or, if I did, it would end with awkward silence and half-finished drink. But Malika, different. Not in a deep way or anything, just immediately not boring. She had this kind of I'm too cool to care, but still oddly invested vibe that made it way too easy to talk to her. And I'm not gonna lie, she was hot, but like dangerously hot. The kind of person you hook up with, and then 2 weeks later your car's towed for no reason and your Spotify starts glitching. We met at this half-dead rooftop bar where the drinks were $6 and tasted like melted freezer pops. I was already a few beers in, not really trying to impress anyone. She came over, asked if I was also pretending to enjoy the music, and within like 10 minutes we were making fun of this one guy's neon sunglasses and finishing each other's fries. I genuinely thought I was in for one of those rare decent Tinder dates where nobody trauma dumps or talks about crypto. The night moved fast. No weird pauses, no fake excuses to dip early. She came back to mine without either of us saying anything about it. That kind of vibe. We hooked up, nothing dramatic, she crashed. And in the morning she stole my hoodie, dead serious, like it was a souvenir. I made her instant coffee and she said it was terrible. Then she left. I texted her later that day. No reply. Waited a couple days. Still nothing. By the end of the week, I figured it was classic ghost protocol. Whenever. I didn't lose sleep over it. We only met once, and I was used to that kind of thing. Swipe, match, drink, vanish. The end. Now here's where it flips. A few weeks later, I get hired for this marketing job. First real job that wasn't delivering overpriced smoothies or pretending to care about protein powder. Office was nice, people seemed chill, and actually paid more than rent and a single frozen pizza. My first week, they tell me I'll be meeting the head of marketing. Just a one-on-one welcome thing, nothing formal. I figure it's gonna be someone older, someone who talks too much about synergy or some made-up leadership strategy. So I walk in, and there she is, Malika, sitting at this desk like she didn't bail on me mid-text conversation a month ago. Her hair's done up all clean and boss-like, wearing some blazer that probably costs more than my entire closet. And she just goes, "Hi, welcome to the team." Like we didn't spend the night arguing over cereal brands while half naked in my apartment. And I know what you're thinking. Maybe she didn't recognize me. Nah, she 100% recognized me. You could see it in the tiny pause before she spoke. But she didn't flinch, not even a twitch. Just played it cool like we never met. I was sitting there trying not to laugh and also wondering if this was one of those HR traps where they try to test how professional you are under extreme pressure. I nodded, smiled, said nothing. She gave me the standard office talk about culture and Slack etiquette and wrapped up in 10 minutes. I walked out of there like I'd just survived a bomb defusal. Later that day, I passed by her office and saw the photo. Her and this dude smiling at some beach resort like they just finished a couple's massage. Turns out the dude is the actual boss of the company. The guy who signs the checks. His name's on the building. Founder. CEO. Whatever title makes your stomach drop. So, yeah. The girl who ghosted me after a one-night Tinder date turned out to be married to my boss. And now she's technically my boss too. And we're both just pretending none of it happened. She walks past my desk sometimes and says stuff like, "Good job on the pitch," or "Can you resend that file?" Like she didn't once tell me she hated small dogs and thought horoscopes were a scam while we sat in my kitchen eating leftover pasta. I never bring it up. Why would I? I like my job, I like my paycheck, and I'm not trying to get fired for being the guy who banged management. But the mental gymnastics it takes to be in the same meeting as her while she explains engagement metrics. Insane. I've mastered the art of looking just interested enough to avoid suspicion, but not so focused that she thinks I'm trying to make eye contact. There are times where I swear she's low-key waiting for me to slip up. Like she watches me from across the meeting room just to see if I'll crack and say something dumb. But I won't. I'm not about to get involved in her mess. She's the one who ghosted me and showed up at my workplace like it was casual. I'm just here to collect a paycheck and stay as far from drama as humanly possible. So that's how Tinder led me to sleeping with my boss's wife before I knew she was my boss's wife. She's still got my hoodie, by the way. And every time I walk past her office and see it draped over her chair like it's just a normal piece of outerwear, I just keep walking. Anyway, that's my life now. Corporate Tinder chaos. Could be worse, could be customer service. So I matched with Jason on Tinder after a dry spell where every guy I talked to either opened with a gym selfie or asked me my body count within 5 minutes. Jason wasn't like that. At first, he had a decent profile, nothing super flashy, just a picture of him with a dog, classic, one in front of a mountain, mandatory, and a pretty thin bio that said something like lover of books, music, and deep combos. I rolled my eyes but swiped right anyway. Low effort, but at least he wasn't throwing up gang signs in every picture or posting shirtless mirror selfies with toothpaste on the sink. We matched instantly and started talking that night. He used real sentences. He spelled things right. He didn't immediately ask what I was wearing or where I lived. It was weirdly refreshing. He asked what kind of music I was into. We talked about how trash modern dating is, and we actually laughed at the same memes. It was normal. That was the trap. So first date rolls around. He picks a cozy little ramen spot downtown. Not too expensive, not too hipster. Right in that sweet spot where you don't feel like you're being scammed for a bowl of noodles, but you're also not wiping your hands on a paper towel roll. He shows up dressed fine. Like, not a fashion icon, but clean, decent shoes, no weird smells, and he made eye contact. Already ahead of 40% of the dudes I've gone out with. We sat down, ordered, talked for like 2 hours straight. He was funny in a dry kind of way, and I didn't feel like I had to carry the conversation. I remember thinking, okay, finally, someone who doesn't immediately give me the ick. At the end of the night, I offered to split the bill, mostly out of habit. I wasn't testing him or trying to prove anything, but he shook his head and said he had it. All good. Ate two, same deal. Coffee and a walk around this weird sculpture garden thing. Again, good conversation. We made fun of modern art, got chased by a goose near a fountain, and he paid for the lots without making a thing of it. By the time we were planning a third hangout, I actually found myself kind of looking forward to it. That third date was where it all cracked. We went to this casual pizza place I liked. Not fancy, just chill. Booth seating, the kind of joint where they serve drinks in red plastic cups, and everything smells like garlic and melted cheese. We ordered a big pizza, shared a picture, and joked about who we'd be in a zombie apocalypse again. Running joke from date 2. Everything seemed fine. Then the check came. Without thinking, I reached into my bag and said, "Wanna just split it?" He froze, like actual freeze frame. His whole face shifted like I just told him his dog died. He blinked, laughed once in that fake way people do when they're clearly not okay, and said something like, "Yeah, sure, if that's what you want." The rest of the night was awkward, like silence-heavy drink sipping between every word awkward. He didn't look mad, but he definitely wasn't having fun anymore. He walked me to the subway. He'd be the most dry, "take care," and dipped. I texted him later just to smooth things out, like, "Hey, had fun. Let me know if you made it home okay." He replied 6 hours later with just a "yeah, I'm good." I figured that was the end. Like, okay, whatever. I guess he caught feelings and didn't like how things were going. Not my problem. Then came the essay. I woke up 2 days later to an email. An actual email. Like full-on, proper subject line, multiple paragraphs, signed at the bottom with his full name. I almost didn't open it. Thought it might be spam. But curiosity won and I clicked it. Big mistake. The email was 10 pages. I counted. 10 full pages. Single-spaced, broken into sections with headers, like a damn school paper. The subject line was a conversation we never got to have, and I swear to God I thought I was being pranked. The first section was called The Foundation, where he laid out his philosophy on men and women in relationships. Stuff like men are biologically driven to lead, and feminism has confused the natural order. He literally used the phrase natural order. I almost spat out my orange juice. It got worse, way worse. Next section was modern women and their rebellion against structure. His words, not mine. He talked about how women today are trained to reject male leadership and how splitting a bill isn't just about money, it's about power. He compared it to cutting the legs off a table and wondering why it wobbles. Like, bro, what? He was upset that I offered to split a $28 meal. That's what started this TD talk of insanity. He said when I split the bill, I was sending a message that I didn't honor the masculine energy he was trying to bring. He wrote that when women go Dutch, they emasculate men and erode the trust needed for a proper union. I'm not even joking. There were stats too. From articles I'm pretty sure he Googled 5 minutes before writing the email. Stuff like 85% of successful long-term marriages operate on traditional roles. No source cited, just vibes and bold fonts. Then came my favorite section, the decline of the gentleman. He made it sound like chivalry was some endangered species being hunted to extinction by Venmo and dating apps. He said when women split bills, they're rejecting the male's offering, and that it's symbolic of a society in decline. He literally blamed the pizza check for the fall of modern values. The last 2 pages were basically him listing all the things he needs in a partner. The word submission showed up 5 times. He wanted a woman who understands her role, who appreciates masculine energy, and doesn't feel the need to challenge him. He signed it off with, "I wish you clarity on your path and healing from whatever taught you to devalue a good man." I sat there in my kitchen just staring at my laptop like, what just happened? This man, who I split a pizza with, just wrote me a full manifesto like I was a villain in his origin story. And the worst part, he really thought he was being mature and insightful. Like he genuinely believed this email was going to enlighten me, change my perspective, make me realize I'd made some tragic mistake by treating him like an equal adult. I blocked him on everything, obviously. Then I sent the email to 3 of my friends, who all had different reactions. One printed it out and read it dramatically like it was Shakespeare. One started marking grammar mistakes in red pen like a school teacher. The third friend asked if she could post it on her story. I said no, but I was tempted. So yeah, that was Jason. Seemed nice like dogs, good banter, great coffee date. Then got weirdly triggered by me reaching for my wallet and hit me with a 10-page lecture about traditional gender roles and pizza dynamics. If I had known that splitting the bill would summon the ghost of 1950s dating rules, I would have fake lost my debit card and run out the door. Okay, so right away, I should have known something was off. Like, now that I think about it, the signs were all there. But in the moment, I was too focused on the fact that I was finally talking to someone on Tinder who didn't seem completely unwell or try to call me wifey 3 messages in. Megan seemed super normal. She had real photos, didn't use weird filters, no grouped shots where you can't tell who's who. Her bio said she liked hiking, horror movies, and late night fries, which is the holy trifecta of basic but good energy. She had a picture with a dog and a sarcastic joke about being a recovering crystal girl. I was like, all right, I can work with this. Our first couple convos were pretty chill. Nothing too deep, but funny. She roasted my music taste a bit, and we got into this mini debate about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Whatever. That kind of flirty arguing that makes Tinder less miserable. We moved over to texting after a few days, then made plans to meet. First date, we hit this food truck lot near my place. She was actually cooler in person, but shorter than I expected, but had that confident kind of vibe where she walked like she owned the pavement. She didn't dress like she was trying too hard either. Hoodie, rings on every finger, Vans with Sharpie writing all over them. She told me she customizes every pair of shoes she owns because retail energy makes her break out. I didn't really know what that meant, but I nodded anyway. We got tacos, sat on a curb, and talked for like 3 hours. Pretty easy conversation, but definitely a few weird moments I just ignored. Like when she asked, I was emotionally avoided before I even finished my first bite, and then randomly asked how I felt about generational wounds. I kind of laughed and said, well, I do talk to my mom, so I'm already ahead of the curve, and she didn't even smile. Just nodded like she was taking mental notes. Still, I figured everyone has their thing. She seemed interesting and different in a way that didn't scream danger, just intense, you know. So we text a few more days, and then she hits me with this. Hey, some of my friends are doing drinks and hanging out this Friday, super casual, you should come. Cool, chill. Normal invite, right? That's what I thought. I asked where, and she sends me the name of some wine bar I'd never heard of. Says it's low-key kind of private, good vibes. Whatever. I show up at 7. Right away, I should have known I was walking into a trap. The place is weirdly quiet. No music, just soft jazz and low murmuring voices. I walk in, and the host, yes, there was a host, which was already odd for a wine bar, leads me to the back. Megan's sitting at this table with 5 other people. 3 couples and her, and me. Everyone's got notebooks. Not phones, not menus, actual notebooks. The guy next to me, this dude in a cardigan with a man bun and a therapist voice, goes, "You must be Megan's guy. So glad you're joining the circle." Joining the what? Circle? Pro what? I sit down and Megan gives me this look like play along, but also don't mess this up. I'm trying not to panic. I thought I was showing up to grab drinks and meet her friends, maybe bond over embarrassing Tinder stories or something. Instead, I'm sitting in a booth surrounded by couples who are introducing themselves like it's a workshop. And then it starts. The man bun dude, apparently his name is Lior, says we're going to check in and talk about what we've been carrying emotionally this week. He passes a talking stick, a literal stick, like carved from wood with beads on it. People are nodding solemnly. One is already tearing up. I'm sitting there like I just wandered into a cult by accident. Megan takes the stick and starts talking about her recent fear of abandonment and how she's been trying to work through her tendency to self-sabotage intimacy. She then says, out loud in front of these strangers, that she invited me here because she wanted to face her patterns in real time with a potential partner. I almost choked on the weird herb-infused water they were serving. I had no idea what to do. Like, what do you even say to that? This girl invited me a Tinder date she's met exactly once to a couples therapy group disguised as drinks with friends, and now she's telling a whole table of people that I might be part of her healing journey. I gave the most awkward response ever when the stick came to me. Just said something like, "Yeah, I wasn't expecting this tonight, but I'm glad to be here." One couple clapped. Megan smiled like I passed a test. I wanted to disappear. The next 2 hours were just chaos. People unpacking childhood drama, fighting gently about tone of voice, complimenting each other on their accountability. Meanwhile, I'm just trying not to be seen too hard, because the second anyone made eye contact with me, I felt like they were scanning my soul for unresolved trauma. One woman told her boyfriend he reminded her of her dad and then cried while he held her hand. Another dude admitted he got jealous when his girlfriend liked thirst traps on Instagram. All of this, right in front of me. Megan kept holding my hand like we'd been through something together. She even asked me in front of everyone if I thought I could be emotionally available for real connection. Everyone went silent waiting for my answer. I panicked and said, "Sure," and the entire group nodded like I just said something profound. I'm pretty sure one of them wrote it down in their notebook. Finally, it ended, thank God. People hugged, someone played a wind chime app on their phone as like a closing ritual, and then they all walked out like it was a normal Friday night. Megan turned to me after and said she was proud of me for showing up. I said something about needing to find my car and basically speed walked out of there. She texted me the next day saying she really saw potential in us now that we had shared intentional space. I never responded. I still get anxiety every time someone invites me to a group hang. Basically, I got lured into an undercover therapy circle because some girl from Tinder wanted to fix her trust issues and thought I was emotionally available enough to do it in front of strangers on Friday night. I just wanted wine. I ended up doing shadow work. I matched with this guy named Luke on a Wednesday night when I was bored out of my mind and pretending to care about a documentary I had playing in the background. He looked normal, better than normal actually, like kind of absurdly attractive in a way that I usually swipe left on because it feels fake. But I was in a mood and I figured, hey, maybe the universe is throwing me a hot guy bone for once. His profile said he worked in tech consulting, which can mean literally anything, and he had that whole soft smile and a hoodie thing going on in his pictures. A couple beach shots, a selfie in what looked like a Tesla, and one mirror pic that was a little too perfect, but whatever. I was in. He messaged first. Didn't open with something weird or flirty. Just asked about my favorite breakfast food and told me I had a smart-looking face, whatever that means. We talked for a while. It was smooth, like almost suspiciously smooth. He was funny, kind of self-deprecating, didn't make it about looks, and actually asked me stuff about my life. Not in that fake interested way either. Like he remembered details I told him 2 days earlier, which nobody ever does on Tinder. We started texting, then talking on the phone, then FaceTiming. That was the part that sold me. FaceTime. We didn't do it all the time, but a few times a week for like 2 weeks. He said he hated video calls, but made an exception for me. Again, I was buying all of it. He looked just like his pics. Same messy curls, same chill vibe. He usually took the calls from his home office, which looked very clean, minimal, kind of weirdly perfect, like the kind of place you only see in apartment tours. He never gave off sketchy vibes. I asked to hang out a few times, and he always had some legit-sounding excuse. Business trip, had to fly to visit his mom, got food poisoning, whatever. But the calls kept coming. The texts were consistent. The combos were good. We'd been talking for about 3 weeks, and I was actually kind of excited about it. Which for me is rare. I usually assume most online matches are fake or trash after day 2. Then it got weird. I posted an Instagram story from this bar I was at with friends. Literally just a shot of the drinks and some song playing. Nothing dramatic. But this random girl, someone I didn't know, replied to the story with, "Oh, are you talking to Luke too?" At first I thought she meant someone else. Luke isn't exactly an uncommon name. But I clicked on her profile and she looked vaguely familiar. And she had a few pics with the same dude I'd been FaceTiming. My heart dropped. I messaged her back like, what do you mean? And she replied instantly with, "Girl, we need to talk." Turns out she had been talking to the same guy. Same name, same photos, same everything. And so had 3 of her friends. They'd all knew because they compared screenshots and timelines when things started getting sketchy. And all of them had noticed weird patterns, like how he never met up in person. How the conversations all felt a little too polished. How the video calls were always short, kind of awkward, and done in dim lighting. She sent me screenshots and I felt my stomach flip. The messages were almost identical. Same jokes, same compliments, same voice memos. We were all getting copy-paste Luke. I asked her how the fast time part worked because I was sure that's what made him legit. That's when she hit me with the craziest part of the whole thing. It wasn't him. The guy in the photos, not Luke. That was some actor. A real actor, like someone on the grind, barely making rent, doing random gigs, who had apparently been hired by Luke to pretend to be him on FaceTime calls. Let me repeat that. The man I had been FaceTiming was not the man I thought I was talking to. It was a paid actor. Some struggling dude who was literally hired to sit in front of a camera and say a few lines during short calls while reading off a screen or being coached off camera. And the real Luke, no one had seen him. Not one girl. Apparently this dude was running some scam where he used a fake identity to get women to open up, gain their trust, then slowly start pitching them investment ideas. Crypto, stocks, online businesses, whatever. I hadn't gotten to that stage yet. Maybe I was too skeptical, or maybe I'd been slow on the hook, but a couple of girls had. One of them actually sent him money. Not a lot, but still, enough to make me want to delete the internet. I confronted him, obviously. Texted him like, "Who the hell are you?" And he replied within 5 minutes with, "I don't know what you're talking about. You're being weird," which, classic. I pushed. Said I knew about the actor, about the other girls, about the fake life. He stopped responding. Blocked me. Deleted the Tinder profile. Ghosted across all platforms. The girl who DM'd me ended up making a group chat with all of us. There were 7 of us in total. 7 women who had been talking to the same fake dude, FaceTiming the same fake actor, and being emotionally slow-burned into this scam that somehow worked because it was so elaborate and weird that nobody thought to question it. We even found the actor eventually. One of the girls reverse image searched the pics and found him in an old ad for a teeth whitening brand. His name wasn't Luke, obviously. He wasn't famous, just one of those people who shows up in stuff you forget 2 minutes after watching. We tried messaging him, but he never responded. I guess money talks. And if your rent depends on pretending to be some guy's Tinder clone on FaceTime, you stay quiet. So, yeah. That's how I spent almost a month talking to a fake person who paid a real person to pretend to be him over FaceTime so he could run investment scams on women. And honestly, it worked better than I want to admit. He had it all figured out, just enough mystery, just enough personality, and just enough tech skills to fake being real. Moral of the story: If someone is too hot and too perfect and too conveniently unavailable, and their FaceTime always looks like a stock photo background, run, or at least reverse image search every single picture. Okay, so you know how sometimes you go on a date with someone and everything is a little off, but not enough to leave. So you just kind of coast through the night hoping it doesn't turn into a train wreck. Yeah, that was this. Except it didn't just go off the rails. The whole thing exploded halfway through, and I was still sitting there with a fork in my hand, wondering what dimension I was in. Let's rewind. I've matched with Alyssa on Tinder because she had this one picture that looked like it was taken during golden hour, and I have no spine when it comes to girls with good lighting and layered jewelry. Her profile was short, just said no boring people, and had a sparkle emoji for some reason. Not super helpful, but her vibe seemed fun and chaotic, which sometimes works out. We talked a bit, mostly surface level stuff. She made fun of me for saying I liked oat no-clads. I asked if her cat was secretly a demon based on one cursed looking selfie, and we set up a date pretty fast. She picked the place. This trendy Italian restaurant that had like 8 things on the menu and all the waiters had visible tattoos. I showed up 5 minutes early like a try-hard. She walked in 20 minutes late like it was a power move. First impression, she was hot. And I mean the kind of hot that makes you feel slightly underdressed even though you put real effort in. Tight curls, oversized sweater, leather boots, big dramatic eyeliner that looked like she could cut someone with a blink. But something was off. She sat down like she just escaped a hostage situation. No smile. Barely said hey, immediately started looking at the menu like she was mad at it. I tried to break the ice, said something dumb about how the waiter looked like he brewed his own kombucha, and she gave me this little laugh, then sighed like the weight of the world was on her shoulders. I asked if everything was cool, and she goes, sorry, I just had a really emotional day. I said, no worries, thinking maybe work stuff or friend drama or something basic. Nope. She started talking about her ex within 5 minutes, like name, job, history, full breakdown. Said they were together for 3 years, broke up 6 months ago, and she still wasn't totally over it. I tried to nod supportively, like, wow, that sucks, thinking we'd move on quickly, but nope, they kept going. She described how he used to order for her at restaurants, how he hated mushrooms, but she loved them, how he used to hold her hand in this specific way. Very detailed stuff for a first date. Then she cried. Right there. In the middle of the appetizer. We hadn't even gotten breadsticks yet. She just teared up, dabbed her eyes with a linen napkin, and kept talking through it like it was totally normal. I offered to get the waiter or take a break, and she just waved me off like, no, this is good. This is helpful. I was frozen. Do you comfort someone over a person you've never met while also wondering if your carbonara is going to arrive in time for you to fake a bathroom emergency? I thought that was the peak. Like, okay, she's clearly still healing. This is a mess, but I'll ride it out and chalk it up to another weird Tinder story. But oh no, that wasn't the end. That was just the setup. We finished dinner. She insists on splitting the bill to not feel like she owes me emotionally, which made 0 sense but fine. Then she asks if I want to go for a walk. I agreed mostly out of morbid curiosity at this point. We walk like 2 blocks, and then she stops and looks at me dead serious and goes, can I ask you something kind of weird? Sure. This is already the weirdest night of my month. She takes a deep breath and says, you remind me a lot of him, like a lot. And I think it would really help me let go if we could replay some of our dynamic just for closure. I blinked, she clarified. She wanted me to role-play their relationship. Specifically their arguments. She wanted to recreate one of their fights. With me, a stranger she had dinner with, as a form of healing. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. She didn't laugh. She was dead serious. Said it would help her face the reality of their dynamic by projecting it onto a new person in a safe container. Those were her actual words. A safe container. Like it was a therapy sandbox or something. She even had a scenario ready. I want you to say, you're too emotional. This is why I pull away. That was one of his lines. I stood there on the sidewalk just blinking like someone who accidentally walked into a live theater audition. She started pacing like she was gearing up for it. Like rehearsing the scene. I told her this felt weird and kind of manipulative, and she just stared at me and said, wow, that's exactly what he used to say. I sweared I thought someone was filming me. Like I looked around for a hidden camera. I half expected Ashton Kutcher to pop out from behind a tree and tell me I'd been punked. But nope, this was real. This girl was fully trying to act out emotional closure with a man she met on Tinder and had known for roughly 90 minutes. At that point, I said I needed to get going. She didn't get mad or cry again, which honestly scared me more. She just nodded and said, "Thanks for holding space." I went home and just sat in my room staring at the wall for 20 minutes. Like, what just happened? Who does that? She texted me the next day thanking me for the container and said she felt lighter now. I never replied. I couldn't even figure out how to say no without her using it as another healing opportunity. I half expected her to send me an invoice for unpaid emotional labor. So yeah, that was Alyssa. She cried at dinner about her ex, then asked me to pretend to be him so she could process their trauma. Through me, on our first date, all I wanted was pasta. I got cast in an off-Broadway breakup reenactment. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't swipe right on people without a little deep dive first. I check for the usual stuff. No weird filters, no gym mirror pics with unwashed towels in the background, no car selfies from 2009. Brandon passed all of it. His profile was solid. Nothing flashy, just some clean photos of him at the beach, one with a dog, and a few chill group pics. His bio was short, said he was laid back into horror movies and home-cooked food. And he had a quote about loyalty that sounded like it was copied from a Drake song, but I let slide. We matched pretty quick and started talking. The conversation was weirdly solid, like too solid. He texted in full sentences, used punctuation, even knew the difference between your and your, which immediately put him above half the app. He was flirty but not gross, funny without trying too hard, and he didn't come at me sideways with pickup lines or compliments about my eyes and soul, or whatever fake deep dudes say. After a couple days of back and forth, I asked if he wanted to grab coffee or something. He dodged. Said his schedule was crazy right now, but he'd love to FaceTime first. Weird but fine. I figured maybe he was being safe or introverted or whatever. We FaceTimed that night. His camera was kind of low quality and dim, but it was him. Same face, same voice I imagined, sitting in what looked like a decent living room. Nothing shady, just kind of dark. He said the lighting sucked in his place and he was redoing stuff, so I didn't overthink it. But then the same thing happened 3 more times. Every time I tried to suggest a real in-person meetup, coffee, walk, literally anything, he had a reason to say no. One time it was family drama. Another time it was waiting on a package I had to sign for. And another time he said his friend had borrowed his car and crashed it. I'm not dumb, okay? I knew something was up. But I was also bored and curious and honestly kind of entertained by how many excuses he could come up with on the fly. Around the 3rd week, I started pulling back. I didn't really have time for another ghost Tinder situationship. I definitely didn't want to be texting someone forever who couldn't be bothered to leave their house. So I told him straight up, if we're not meeting soon, I'm out. He replied immediately. Said he wanted to tell me something but didn't want to scare me off, which obviously just made it worse. So here it is, the big reveal. Brandon tells me, over text in full seriousness, that the reason he couldn't meet up in public is because he was currently on house arrest, like with the ankle monitor and everything. He even sent a blurry-ass photo of his foot with the monitor strapped on like I was supposed to be impressed or something. Said it was a temporary situation, and he was close to getting it removed. I stared at my screen for a full minute just processing that. Like, this man had been dodging coffee dates not because he was anxious or low-key, but because he literally could not leave the house without violating a court order. I asked why he was on house arrest, obviously. He said it was complicated and involved a misunderstanding with an ex, a car, and something about trespassing. The way he phrased it made it sound like he was a victim, but honestly at that point I didn't even care what the story was. It was wild enough that he'd been talking to me for weeks like he was a free man, knowing damn well he hadn't stepped outside his front yard in months. And I would have just dipped there. Honestly, I was ready to delete the chat block and add it to my list of unreal Tinder moments until he hit me with the last twist. He told me the photos on his profile weren't him. Let me repeat that. The guy I matched with, the one I FaceTimed, the one I talked to for weeks, the one I thought I was maybe vibing with, was using pictures of his cousin. His actual cousin. Not some random stock model, not someone from Instagram. A real person he sees on holidays and probably eats barbecue with. His explanation: he said he used to look like that before quarantine and didn't want to post current pics because people are judgmental about the ankle monitor. Which, yeah, they are. Because it's an ankle monitor. It's not a fashion accessory, bro. I asked if the guy on FaceTime was him at least, and he said yes. That was really him. But he used a filter and bad lighting, so I wouldn't be able to compare it too closely. Like, this man had a full Tinder con strategy built on shadows and vague angles. He thought he could sneak by on 30% visibility and a filter. I was lucky impressed by how calculated it was. Like, effort-wise, he was putting in the hours. At this point, I was kind of done, but also weirdly invested, so I asked why he even matched with people if he couldn't beat them. His answer: I just like talking to people. Makes the time go faster. He treated Tinder like a boredom app, like Sudoku, just something to pass the time while on court-ordered lockdown. He even had the nerve to ask if I still wanted to keep talking, maybe see where it goes when he's out, as if I was gonna sit around and wait for his release date like some kind of digital pen pal girlfriend. I didn't respond. I just blocked the number, unmatched him, and deleted our chat history before I got sucked into the next stage of his weird little ankle monitor dating saga. But honestly, part of me still wonders if the cousin knows. Like, does this guy know his face is out there getting swiped right on by people who are actually being catfished by his legally confined relative? Are they cool with it? Do they tag team the whole thing like some weird dating scam duo? Anyway, lesson learned. If someone won't meet you in public and their apartment lighting always looks like a cave, maybe ask if they're legally allowed to leave the house. Or at least do a reverse image search before you emotionally invest in a man who's using his cousin's face as a Tinder mask. So yeah, Brandon was a dude who couldn't leave the house because of the law and was using someone else's face to flirt his way through house arrest boredom. And I fell for it for like 3 weeks. Amazing. Tinder's never been good to me. I have no idea it in a past life, but the algorithm definitely has me marked for chaos. Still, sometimes boredom wins. You're lying on the couch, trying to ignore whatever guilt you feel from ignoring your life responsibilities, and next thing you know, you're matching with someone who looks semi-normal and types in full sentences. That's how I ended up talking to Olivia. Her profile was low-key. Just a couple blurry selfies, a group photo that I immediately clocked as old based on someone wearing those 2016 fake glasses with the clear frames, and a mirror pic with that fake casual whoops, I look hot look. She had something about astrology in her bio. I ignored it. I swiped right mostly because she had a decent smile and didn't open with the words entrepreneur or sapiosexual. Already above the curve. We matched. She messaged first. It was something simple like, "What's the worst date you've ever been on?" And I should have known that was foreshadowing. But I took the bait. Told her about some guy who tried to sell me his mixtape during dinner, and she laughed with like 15 crying emojis. The combo wasn't deep, but it was easy. She had that kind of chaotic energy where nothing stays on the same topic for more than 2 minutes. 1 second we're talking about pasta shapes. The next she's telling me about a time she almost adopted a raccoon because it looked emotionally distant like her. I figured, hey, at least she's entertaining. We texted for like a week before she hit me with, "You should come over sometime. I don't like going out and bars are annoying." Sounded chill to me. I asked what day, and she said Friday night. Said she'd order food and we could watch something dumb and just hang out. I was like, cool, easy night, low pressure. Maybe this one won't be a disaster. Oh, how wrong I was. So I show up. I Ubered to her place, which is in this quiet neighborhood full of houses that all look like they were designed by the same slightly bored suburban architect. She texts me the code to her building and tells me to just come in. Already a little weird, but I figure, okay, maybe she's just casual like that. I walk into her apartment and immediately hear voices, plural, like two people talking kind of loud. I knock on her door even though she told me to come in. She opens it like nothing is off and goes, "Hey, come in. Make yourself at home." Then she turns and walks back down the hall like she forgot she invited someone over. I follow her in and there he is. Sitting on her couch. Another guy. Just chilling. Socks on, drink in hand. Looks like he's been there for a minute. I freeze, thinking maybe it's her roommate or brother or something. But no, she sits down right next to him and they start casually bickering about what to watch on Netflix. I stand there like an idiot waiting for her to introduce us or explain, but she just tosses me a blanket and says, "You can take the couch tonight, by the way. He's staying over." Now pause, because at this point my brain is trying to play catch up like I just got dropped into someone else's script. I'm thinking maybe she's joking, like haha, awkward third wheel moment, very funny. But nope, dead serious. No punchline, no explanation. I ask, wait, what's happening right now? And she just blinks at me and says, "Oh, yeah. So I didn't tell you earlier, but I'm kind of seeing someone already. But I still wanted to meet you. I figured we hang, and if things go well, maybe next time you get the bedroom." Excuse me. The guy on the couch doesn't even flinch. He just sips his drink and kind of smirks like this happens all the time. I don't even know where to start. First of all, if you're in a relationship or kind of in one, maybe open with that. Second, why am I here? Like, genuinely, what was the plan? Did she think I'd just be cool kicking it on the floor while they had their locals cuddle night? I ask her, "Why would you invite me over if he was already here?" And she goes, "I just wanted to see what the vibe was like. I'm poly, but he's not fully on board yet. So I thought easing into it would be less awkward. Less awkward. You invited two dudes to the same space and gave one of them couch rations like this is Hunger Games." I grabbed my stuff and said I wasn't sticking around for this bizarre Tinder bachelor experiment. She actually looked disappointed. Told me I was being closed-minded. Girl, no. I'm being normal. You invited me into a situation where I'm third-wheeling your open relationship roll-up plan and expected me to nap on a throw pillow while you and your man culled through a horror movie. The worst part, she texted me the next day like it wasn't a big deal. Said, "Sorry if the vibes were weird, you're cute though. Want to try again sometime when he's out of town." I didn't even respond. I just sat there for a second imagining what the second date would be like, me waiting outside while she wrapped up a makeout session with her primary, then getting handed a turn like on the next appointment at the DMV. I unmatched, blocked the number, told my friends. One of them actually clapped when I finished the story, like I'd escaped something spiritually dangerous. Another said I should have stayed just to watch how it all played out, but I value my mental health too much for that kind of research. So, yeah, Olivia invited me over for what I thought was going to be a chill night and casually dropped the info that her actual boyfriend was already there, staying over, and I'd be allowed to sleep on the couch like a backup dancer waiting for my turn. Dating is broken. I matched with Claude during a week where I was on Tinder for all the wrong reasons. I wasn't bored, I was annoyed. I had just been coasted by a guy who made me listen to his podcast about emotional capitalism for 2 hours and then disappeared into the void. So I was like, whatever, let me swipe, let me match. Let me mentally scream into the void again, but with someone new. Claude's profile was one of those that doesn't give you much to go off. 3 pictures, one mirror selfie, one blurry party shot, and one where she's holding a wine glass like she's judging you through the screen. No bio, no job info, just her name and a spark emoji. It was giving mystery. I almost swiped left, but then I did that dumb thing where you talk yourself into it, like, maybe she's chill. Maybe she's just bad at bios. We match. She messages first. Just says, "You from a religious family?" I say, not really, why? And she replies with, "Just curious. I tend to attract a certain type." That should have been my cue to log out and never look back, but I said, "Ha, okay," and we kept talking. She had this intense way of texting. Like every message was short but loaded, like she was trying to say more than she was actually saying. Not flirty exactly, more like she was trying to profile me. She asked a lot of questions about my parents, whether I grew up in church, if I ever got in trouble for immoral behavior. I figured maybe she had trauma or was just into philosophy or whatever. People overshare all the time on dating apps. I didn't take it that seriously. After a few days of back and forth, she asks if I want to grab drinks. I said sure. She picked the place. One of those wine bars that tries really hard to be minimalist, but ends up just looking like a dentist's waiting room with candles. I showed up first, sat at a tiny table by the wall. She walked in 10 minutes later wearing a massive coat and Doc Martens like she was coming straight from emotionally confronting someone in a parking lot. She sits down, orders something dry and red, and immediately lights a cigarette on the patio. Indoors wasn't even an option. She didn't waste time. Didn't do the whole "so what you do" small talk thing. Just went straight into questions like, "How close are you with your mom?" And do you ever feel shame about wanting things? Real casual stuff. I asked her what she did for work, and she goes, I'm a freelancer. I asked what kind of freelance, and she smirked and said, people. I laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. I asked again, and she just shrugged and said, honestly, I mostly date guys like you and see what happens. I was like, what do you mean guys like me? And she said, guys with repressed guilt, church boys, rule followers, the ones who think being good means not getting caught. I was genuinely confused. I told her I wasn't some Sunday school prodigy or anything, and she said, yeah, but you got the vibe. That moral baseline. That makes you interesting. I think I just blinked at her for 10 seconds straight. She starts explaining, like fully laying it out, that she specifically matches with guys who come from conservative or religious families so she can test how loyal they actually are. She said she gets a thrill out of seeing how far she can push them. She called it an emotional sport. Her exact words were, I don't break homes. I break illusions. I wish I was making this up. She said that once she hooks them, she watches how they try to justify it. How they say things like, you're different, or this doesn't count. One guy, she said, was engaged when they met, and she convinced him to cheat just by talking about forgiveness until he spiraled into her lap. She didn't even sound proud of it. She sounded bored, like it was just Tuesday. I asked her if she felt bad, like, at all. And she just stared at me like I was asking if she felt bad for stepping on a spider. She said, I don't lie to them. They lie to themselves. I just show them the line. If they cross it, that's on them. At this point, I'm thinking this cannot be real. I'm half expecting someone to pop out and say it's an improv experiment or a YouTube prank. But no, she's dead serious. Calm. Unbothered. Sipping her wine like she's discussing a book she didn't finish. Then she leans forward and says, but don't worry. You're safe. I'm not playing tonight. I didn't know whether to be relieved or insulted. Like, cool, thanks for not emotionally targeting me for sport, I guess. But also, what do you mean, not tonight? Was this like a vampire rule? Could I still be fair game tomorrow? She kept talking. Told me she'd been on dozens of dates like this. Some end with a guy costing her because he knows he was close to doing something shady. Others end with full-on confessions. Dudes spilling secrets about fiancés, church trauma, purity rings, whatever. One guy cried in her car, apparently. Another one tried to Venmo her for silence. I asked her what she gets out of it. Like, really, what's the payoff? She said, guilt is the purest control mechanism. Once you ruin it, people get honest. Again, I just blinked. I didn't even have a response for that. I think my soul left the room for a few seconds. She paid for her wine, stood up, and said, this was fun. You're not broken enough yet, but I like your voice. Then she walked out. I sat there for like 10 more minutes just trying to process what happened. I came out for a casual drink with a Tinder girl who seemed a little mysterious and ended up in a live therapy experiment where I was apparently too mentally stable to qualify for her next emotional takedown. She texted me later that night with, you've got good instincts. Don't lose them. I didn't reply. She unmatched me by morning. So, yeah, Chloe uses Tinder like it's a moral demolition derby. She dates conservative guys just to see if she can flip them into cheating, then watches the guilt wreck them for sport. Meanwhile, I was just trying to have a glass of wine and maybe hold hands with someone who listens to Mitski. So I matched with this guy Ethan during one of those nights where you're not even looking for anything serious, just swiping for sport between episodes of some show you already stopped paying attention to. He had that generic tall slash dark slash handsome thing going on, but like in a non-aggressive way. No shirtless pics, no gym locker selfies, just some clean pics of him in jackets and one where he was holding a surfboard. His bio said, into stoicism, growth, and making good pasta. It didn't sound like a threat, just kind of bland, honestly, which was kind of the point. I needed boring. We matched, and within like 20 minutes he was already suggesting we meet up. I wasn't mad at it. He was normal over text, asked decent questions, didn't throw out any weird nicknames or act too flirty. He called me cool as hell for liking hot sauce on popcorn and said we should grab dinner in 5. His words, red flag, probably. but at the time I was just happy someone wasn't sending unsolicited pics of their bathroom mirror. So we meet at this Thai place downtown. Not fancy, but not cheap either. Medium effort, which I respect. He shows up on time, smells good, and looks like his photos, which already puts him in the top 10% of online matches. He's tall, has decent skin, solid jawline, nothing too intimidating. He holds the door open, jokes about how he's addicted to pads. See, you. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is just a chill dude who wears clean shoes and knows how to order appetizers without panic. The date itself, pretty average. The conversation wasn't super deep, but it flowed. He talked a lot about discipline and how he wakes up at 5 a.m. every day, which I pretended to be impressed by even though that sounds like a nightmare. He mentioned he was into content creation, but didn't go into detail, and I didn't push because I assumed it was just workout stuff or like food reviews or something. He had this thing where he kept circling conversations back to how men and women think differently, which was a little weird, but I chalked it up to too many podcasts. There were a couple awkward moments, like when he asked me how I'd rank myself out of 10 and then said, "No pressure, I just like seeing how honest people are." I laughed it off and said I don't really do self-rankings, and he kind of nodded like I failed a test, but whatever. He paid the bill, walked me out, gave me a weirdly formal hug, and said we should debrief soon. Again, weird phrasing, but I didn't think much of it. The next day, I get a random DM on Instagram from this guy I don't know. Just a link. No message, no context. I ignore it, but then a friend texts me like, is this you? And sends the same link. It's a YouTube video. Channel name, Modern Male Evolution, the title of the video. Dinner with a high-value woman. Exposing modern dating delusion, and yeah, I'm in the thumbnail. Literal freeze frame of me laughing over noodles. I click the video, and it's the entire dinner. Audio and all. Blurry camera angle from across the restaurant. Probably propped up on a chair or some fake bag setup, because you can see me and him clear as day. There's a voiceover, his voice, breaking down everything I said like it was game tape. Stuff like, greater than notice how she deflects the self-rating question, classic avoidance tactic. Greater than she's wearing hoops and layered necklaces. Statistically, that correlates with higher self-interest and lower relationship investment. Greater than listen to how she talks about boundaries. Translation, walls up, trauma unresolved. He literally pauses the video every few minutes to give his analysis. It's like watching a bad TED Talk from someone who thinks Jordan Peterson is his actual dad. He's dissecting my laugh, my hand movements, even how I sit in my chair, calling it alpha mirroring or some crap like that. Meanwhile, I'm sitting at home with a spoonful of cereal hanging from my mouth, wondering how I ended up in a low-budget psychological thriller about my own date. And the comments, brutal. Full of dudes saying things like, typical modern woman behavior, she's testing his frame, and he handled her wrong, should have challenged her early. One guy said I look like the type to fake cry during arguments, and another said he should make her split the bill to test her femininity. I wanted to throw my phone. I messaged Ethan, obviously. No response. Tried again. Nothing. He'd already blocked me on Instagram and the Tinder profile. Gone, like vanished, like he was never real. Just a ghost with a content plan. I even left a comment on the video. Just, this is illegal, and I did not consent to being filmed. It got deleted in 5 minutes. I started doing some digging and found out the guy had a whole library of these videos. Dozens. Dates with different girls, different restaurants, all secretly recorded, all narrated like some twisted National Geographic documentary. He had playlists with names like Testing Frame Control and Female Behavior Breakdown. He even sold a course, not joking, called Dinner Domination, Mastering the Modern Woman. I filed a report with YouTube, but we all know how that goes. Under review. Meanwhile, my face is out there being used in some stranger's 20-minute deep dive on why women who like spicy food have emotional masculinity traits. I've told this story to everyone. Group chats, coworkers, people on Discord. One of my friends was like, you should have spotted it. He used the word debrief. Another said she's scared to ever go on a dinner date again. One guy I know admitted he's watched channels like that just for curiosity, and now I side-eye him every time he speaks. So, yeah, I went on a date with a dude who used me as unpaid content for his alpha male breakdown channel. He called it field research. I called it a Friday night that ended with me drinking wine from the bottle and Googling how to report someone to every internet agency possible. Don't trust a guy who says he's into content. Don't trust a guy who uses the word feminine energy before dessert. If he says he wakes up at 5 a.m., run. He's not chasing success. He's chasing clout and probably filming your reaction to the bill. So Dylan was one of those guys who had a really clean vibe on Tinder. Like, too clean. His profile looked like it was reviewed by HR. No shirtless mirror pics, no fishing photos, no weird gin grind captions. He had soft lighting, sweaters, a dog in one photo, and a bio that said, working on myself one boundary at a time. It was giving emotionally mature, which, in hindsight, should have made me suspicious immediately. We matched and started talking, and he was fine. Not hilarious, not boring. Kind of felt like I was talking to someone who read a lot of self-help books and wanted me to know it, but it wasn't annoying yet. Every text had punctuation. Every joke had a follow-up about emotional context. He asked me a lot of questions, which I liked. And not just basic stuff like, what do you do? He asked what my relationship with conflict was. When do I need when I'm overwhelmed? What my attachment style is. I thought it was weirdly deep for Tinder, but I figured, hey, maybe he's in therapy and just wants something serious. Could be worse. We met for coffee. He was taller than I expected, wore those rounded glasses that make people look like friendly philosophers, and had this kind of soft-spoken vibe like he didn't raise his voice even when stubbed his toe. He was definitely the kind of person who says, I hear you, instead of, yeah. Again, weirdly mature but not creepy. First date, chill. We talked about music, some movie that had just come out, and, of course, therapy. He mentioned his therapist like 6 times. At first I thought he was joking, like being self-aware about it, but no. He really just brought her up like she was a character in his life. My therapist says I tend to overextend emotionally. My therapist says I fear being misunderstood. My therapist says I need to slow down and trust his comfort. I didn't mind it. I mean, better than someone who thinks therapy is a scam and healing means going to the gym once. He seems self-reflective. That's supposed to be good, right? Second date, we went for a walk in the park. He brought snacks in a tote bag because of course he did. We sat on a bench and he asked if I felt safe in the moment. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He looked dead serious. I said, yeah, I'm good. And he nodded like he was logging it in a mental file. But then he started asking more questions, like deeper. What's your earliest memory of disappointment? Do you think you were seen emotionally as a child? I joked that he sounded like a therapist, and he just smiled and said, I want to be one. I'm in a master's program right now. Oh, okay, cool. Still a little intense for date 2, but I figured maybe this is just how he connects. He kept asking and I kept answering because, honestly, he made it feel easy. It didn't feel invasive. It felt curious, like he wanted to understand people, not control them. By the third date, we were texting every day. Still intense, still kind of philosophical, but consistent. He'd ask how I was sleeping, if I'd been taking breaks from screens. He sent me a podcast episode about grief, even though I hadn't said anything sad. Just thought you might find it interesting. I didn't listen to it. We went out for dinner that night and he brought up the idea of relational mirrors. He said dating can show us what we still need to heal. I agreed, kind of. He said it reminded him of someone he dated once who needed to be seen but didn't trust being seen. I didn't know how to respond to that, like thanks or sorry. That night after dinner, I crashed at his place. Nothing wild, just a sleepover. He made tea, lit a candle, had like 6 different books stacked by the bed. We talked for a bit, and before I passed out, I remember him saying, "You're really good data." I was half asleep and didn't even process it. Next morning, I woke up before him and noticed his laptop open on the desk. Normally, I'd never snoop, but the screen was still on, and what I saw was my own name. Like my full name. Typed out in a Google Doc titled, Relational Behavior Study, Field Notes. I froze. I scrolled a little. There were literal paragraphs, not just random notes. Full breakdowns. Subject exhibits anxious tendencies when discussing vulnerability. Over-explains in moments of discomfort. Uses humor to redirect. So you'd be JC. I kept reading. He had notes from every date. Observations. Hoods. Even the bench conversation, word for word. When asked about safety, subject laughed reflexively, indicating possible discomfort with direct emotional inquiry. I swear I stopped breathing. I took a picture of the screen. I didn't touch anything else, just sat there staring at it until he woke up. When he walked out, I asked him flat out, "What is this?" I matched with Matt during a week when my standards were on vacation. I was tired of guys who posted gym pics with captions like grind time and guys who called their dog their best friend, but didn't know how to ask a real question. Matt seemed chill. His profile was pretty normal. A couple pics of him hiking, one from a wedding where he looked decent in a suit, and a bio that said, "Here for something real. No weird vibes," which is hilarious in hindsight. We started talking and it wasn't bad. He was quick with jokes, didn't send any dry wide messages, and actually remembered stuff I said, which felt rare. We talked about movies, weird food combos, and how much we both hated when people make plans tentative. It all felt easy, normal, no red flags, no weird behavior, just a guy who seemed grounded and at worst mildly boring. And honestly, that was fine with me. First date was coffee. He showed up early, was dressed like he knew what pants were, and didn't make me feel like I was interviewing for a job at his ego factory. We vibed. He was a little stiff, like he had this very I rehearse my small talk energy, but nothing wild. He complimented me, didn't stare at my chest the whole time, and even walked me to my car without making it weird. Second date was dinner, also fine. He paid, asked good questions, and didn't trauma dump. So far, he was winning. No big spark, but I was like, hey, this could be one of those slow burn situations. Then came the third date, and the unraveling. He texted me on a Thursday asking if I was free Saturday for a chill thing with his family. He said it wasn't a big deal, a backyard barbecue and everyone's bringing a plus one. I paused for a sec because third date plus family is kind of fast, but he made it sound casual. He said there'd be food, drinks, yard games. You don't have to stay long if it's weird. I figured why not? Free food, maybe his family's cool, maybe it'll be one of those random but cute stories we laugh about later. Nope. I get there Saturday afternoon. It's hot. I'm sweating through my shirt by the time I get to his street, and already I can hear yelling and music from halfway down the block. His whole extended family is there. Like, not just a few cousins. I'm talking aunts, uncles, grandparents, babies, the whole thing. I walk into what looks like a full-on reunion. Name tags. Balloons. Matching shirts that say Johnson Strong 2024. I'm standing there in jeans and sunglasses like I just walked into a sitcom episode I wasn't cast in. Matt finds me fast and pulls me aside like we're in a spy movie. He whispers, "Okay, so I kind of didn't tell you everything. Just go with it, okay." Already I'm blinking at him like, what? He says, "My dad thinks I'm gay. It's been a thing for a while. He thinks I've been lying about dating. So I kind of told him I've been seeing someone serious. And you're it." I'm dead silent. He says it like I just agreed to hold his drink for a second. Not like I just got pulled into a whole fake relationship performance in front of 50 people than someone's aunt named Cheryl. I ask if he's joking. He's not. He's already leading me toward the grill and shouting, "Dad. This is her." And just like that, I'm meeting his dad. A big dude with a handshake like a car crash and a face that says, "Prove it." He asks how long we've been together, and Matt blurts out, 8 months. I almost choke on air. 8 months. His grandma hugs me. Someone hands me a paper plate. There's a little girl running around calling me cousin-in-law. I've known this man for 3 weeks. I try to corner Matt and be like, what the hell is happening? And he's just like, I didn't know how else to fix it. My family's been on me for years. My dad keeps hinting that I'm hiding something. I just needed one solid, believable girlfriend moment. Then the kicker. He hands me this tiny little ring. Not a real ring. One of those fake adjustable ones that looks like it came out of a gumball machine. He says, if people ask, we're engaged. They'll back off faster. At this point, I'm so deep in the lie that I don't even know how to pull out gracefully. I figure, okay, just survive the next hour and then disappear forever. But nope, it turns into 3 hours. I end up in a group photo. I'm holding babies. His cousin asks how we met, and Matt says, at a fundraiser like we're some budget rom-com. His mom hugs me and says she's so glad her son finally found someone who gets him. The worst part, he's actually good at the act. He wraps his arm around me, whispers sorry in my ear while smiling for the camera, and plays it like we're the happiest couple in the Midwest. Meanwhile, I'm internally drafting the text I'll send later to block him on everything I own. Finally, after what feels like 7 Thanksgivings in one day, I tell him I need to go. He walks me out, gives me this sad little look, and says, I know that was a lot, but thank you. You really helped me out. I just stared at him, like, dude, I did not come here to participate in your elaborate denial of identity live performance. I thought we were getting nachos or watching a movie. Instead, I got drafted into a fake engagement to prove you're straight to your entire family, and now your great aunt thinks I'm taking your last name. He texted me later that night like, hope you made it home safe. Everyone loved you. You're kind of amazing. I left him on read. Then unmatched, then blocked. I still occasionally think about that photo I'm in, hanging on someone's fridge next to congratulations, Matt, and future misses. So yeah, Matt used our third Tinder date to fake a relationship, lied to his entire family, and convinced them he wasn't gay by parading me around like a HomeGoods picture frame girlfriend. I went in for potato salad. I came out someone's fake fiancé. This whole thing started with what I thought was the most innocent swipe ever. Lily had one of those hyper-curated profiles that looks like it came out of Pinterest's starter girlfriend starter pack. Real aesthetic, film grain filters, beach pics, boots on a dashboard, a blurry pic with her face mostly covered by a scarf. I should have been suspicious, but I wasn't. I was dumb and bored. Her bio just said, mentally I'm in a cabin in the woods. Swipe if you like good coffee and bad decisions. I mean, sure, who doesn't? We matched and started talking, and she was actually kind of funny. Witty, not overly flirty, just sharp in a way that didn't scream here for followers. I asked her how her week was going, and she said, boring, but in a cozy way, which didn't make any real sense, but somehow felt like a compliment. She talked a lot about books she hadn't read and movies she hadn't finished, but I figured that was just TikTok brain. She mentioned she didn't like dating apps that much and was looking for real connection, or at least someone tall enough to reach the top shelf. So already I was sold. I'm 6'0" and tragically easy to please. After maybe 2 days of texting, we made plans. She suggested this artsy bar downtown that used to be a printing press or something equally overhyped. One of those places with Edison bulbs, menus that don't have prices, and a bartender who looks like he judges your Spotify Wrapped before making your drink. It felt a little extra for a first date, but I figured if she picked it, maybe she was into cool spots. I got there early. She walked in wearing this huge vintage coat, jeans, and a pair of boots that looked like they weighed more than she did. She gave off chill vibes, not shy, but kind of reserved in a way that made you feel like you had to earn her full personality. We got a table and started talking. She ordered a seltzer, just a sip. I figured maybe she didn't feel like drinking or was taking it slow. Respect. Right off the bat, she was cool, like too cool. Talked about going to museums alone, said she hated brunch culture because everyone just wants an Instagram orange juice, and told me she wanted to live in a van someday, but only if it had room for a projector and a proper kitchen. Not once did she ask anything weird. No trauma bombs. No red flags yet. Just a girl who clearly read enough quote posts to fake having her life together. Halfway through the date, I noticed she kept glancing over her shoulder. Not like scared, more like nervous about getting caught. I asked if everything was okay, and she said, yeah, just don't laugh. But I really need you to not judge me right now. Never a good sign. But I leaned in, figuring maybe she was gonna tell me she was still friends with her ex or used to be an ML or something minor. She looks me dead in the eye and goes, I'm not technically allowed to drink here. I'm 19. But I have a really good fake and I've been coming here for months, so I know how to act normal. I just stared at her. Not in an angry way. More like I was trying to physically pause time with my eyeballs. Like, girl, you're what? I go, you said you were 24 on the app. And she nods like, yeah, duh, that's the point. She says, everyone lies about age. It's just a number. Besides, I'm literally more mature than half the people I know in their 30s. I sat there gripping my drink like it was a detonator. I asked her how she even got on Tinder in the first place, and she said her cousin helped her fake her info using an old licensed photo and some editing app, like it was a whole project. This wasn't a casual slip. This girl ran a full underground operation just to go on dates with older guys. Then she hits me with, "Please don't report me or make this weird. I really like talking to you. I'm not here to mess with anyone. I just don't connect with people my age. I want real stuff. I'm not here to play." Meanwhile, I'm mentally calculating how many security cameras are in the building and whether or not I'm gonna end up on a list. She starts explaining her whole logic, which made it worse. She says she doesn't date guys under 25 because they don't have real opinions yet and only want to hook up. Then says she picks spots like this bar because the crowd is older and she wants to be around people who have stuff to lose. I swear she said it like it was the most emotionally mature reasoning ever. Then she tells me, "Dead serious, you're not like creepy old. You're like emotionally safe old." I didn't even know how to respond to that. Emotionally safe old. What does that even mean? That I throw pillows. That I floss regularly. I told her we couldn't keep hanging out, that she actually looked sad. Said it was one of the least disappointing guys she'd met so far, and that she hoped I wouldn't judge her forever for being ambitious about dating. Like, girl, that's not ambition. That's straight up deception with a drink menu. I paid the check and left. She didn't follow, just stayed sitting there like the ending of an indie film. 2 hours later, she texted me, "Sorry if that messed up the vibe. Let me know if you change your mind when you stop thinking about the number." I didn't respond. I blocked her and unmatched immediately. I'm not trying to catch a case because someone watched 500 Days of Summer too many times and decided maturity is just a vibe you can fake with eyeliner and astrology. So yeah, Lily showed up to a first date using a fake ID, admitted she was 19 halfway through the night, and then asked me not to ruin her shot at real adult dating. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting there wondering how I can delete the whole memory from my brain like a cache folder. So I matched with Tyler on a Sunday, which is already cursed energy because everyone on Tinder on a Sunday is either recovering from a mistake or about to make one. He had that clean, curated profile, flannel shirt, one dog photo, one of him cooking something in a cast iron pan like he was auditioning for a soft boyfriend commercial. His bio said, "Trying to find someone who likes cold mornings, strong coffee, and long playlists." Whatever that means. But I was in a he looks stable mood, so I swiped right. We hit it off pretty fast. Texted for a few days. Lots of joking, lots of little references that made me think, okay, he's not boring. He said he was a graphic designer, worked freelance, liked Wes Anderson movies, and didn't have TikTok because he likes his peace. Which, red flag now, but at the time I thought it was mysterious and kind of cool. He wasn't love bombing, he wasn't playing games, he was just showing up. Honestly, one of the smoothest first weeks I've had with someone off an app. First date, we met at this little Vietnamese place I love. He showed up early, smelled like something expensive I couldn't name, and brought me a little bag of those gummy peach rings because I mentioned I liked them in passing once. Thoughtful, right? It was a good night. Conversation flowed, no awkward silences. And when he walked me to my car, he gave me this look that said, "I'm not rushing anything, but also I'm into this." I went home thinking I might have found someone who actually had his brain in the room. Over the next couple of weeks, we kept seeing each other. Nothing crazy. A few hangouts, a couple dinners, chill nights watching bad horror movies. My roommate Sarah met him once in passing and gave me the thumbs up. I remember her saying, "He's got kind eyes," which in hindsight is hilarious. And that's where the crack started, because every time Tyler came over, he'd always ask if Sarah was home. At first, I didn't think anything of it. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. You kind of have to know if you're going to awkwardly pass someone in the kitchen. But he always asked, like every time, "Is Sarah around tonight?" "Oh, is she working late again? What's her schedule like these days?" I joked about it once like, "Damn, do you like her or something?" And he laughed too hard, like way too hard for someone who's not guilty. It got weirder. One night he came over and brought 2 kinds of wine. When I asked why, he said, "Oh, I wasn't sure which one Sarah liked. I wasn't sure which one you liked." I laughed, but my brain filed it under something is off. Then he started asking me more questions about her than about me. Where did Sarah go to school again? Did she always want to do nonprofit work? She's really smart, And I started picking up on little things, like the fact that he always left the door open when he used the bathroom so she could hear his voice. or how he suddenly got very into the podcast she loved, even though he told me 2 weeks earlier he didn't like podcasts. One night, Sarah and I were watching a movie in the living room when he showed up early. He walked in and didn't even look at me first. Went straight into, "Hey Sarah, what's up?" Like I was just part of the furniture. She gave me this look like, is he good? And I shrugged it off. But the final straw? The moment where I realized I was literally a stepping stone in someone's weird romantic master plan was when I went to grab food with a friend and came home early. Tyler was supposed to come over later that night. I walk in, and he's already in the apartment, sitting on the balcony with Sarah, alone, drinking the wine he bought, my wine from my cabinet. Sarah looked shocked when I came in, like she genuinely didn't know I wasn't home. She goes, "I thought you were out till 10. And I go, "Yeah, so did I." Tyler has the nerve to act casual. Says, "Oh, I got here early and figured I'd say hey." "Nah, I texted you." "Nah, I knocked. Just got there early and started vibing with my roommate like it was his place." I didn't flip out. I didn't even say much. I just stared at him until he got up and mumbled something about letting you two catch up. He left without even saying goodbye to me properly. Sarah and I sat there in silence for a minute before she goes, "Okay, was that weird or?" I told her the whole thing. The questions, the wine, the podcast, all of it. She was horrified. Swore she had no idea and felt gross. I believed her. She's not the type to sneak around, and honestly, she'd been as confused about him as I was. I confronted him the next day, and of course, he deflected. Said I was being insecure, and that he was just trying to get to know the people in my life. I asked him point blank if he was into Sarah. He didn't even say no. Just hit me with, "I think you're overreacting. We're all adults here." Which, translation, yes. Blocked. Deleted. Done. I still see his profile pop up every once in a while in the apps under a slightly different name or with tweaked photos. He's probably still doing the same thing, swiping into people's lives like it's some dating version of parkour, hopping from one girl to the next, hoping one of them leads him to someone he actually wants. So, yeah, Tyler seemed perfect. Sweet, cool, thoughtful. Meanwhile, he was just using me to get access to my roommate like I was some dating decoy. And the worst part, he almost got away with it. Almost. So Vanessa was one of those girls whose profile feels like a trap, but you swipe anyway. You know the type, high effort, maybe too high effort. Every picture is curated like she runs a secret Pinterest board titled Goddess Vibes Only. Think claw clips, gold jewelry, European cafe selfies, and captions like wild soul, soft heart. The whole thing screamed I like candles before I argue, and for some reason, I was into it. She matched with me on a Tuesday and started flirting immediately. Not just like casual flirting. Full gas. Every message was spicy in that I want attention, but I'll pretend it's your idea kind of way. I was sitting there thinking, all right, she's either really into me or dangerously bored. But she was funny. She had banter. She sent voice notes. She called me trouble in that way people do when they're trying to see if you'll flirt back or freeze. We texted constantly. For a solid week, she made it seem like she was obsessed with me. Good mornings, random memes. This song made me think of you. The whole thing. I'm not stupid. I've dated enough to know when someone's playing the game, but she was smooth with it. I figured maybe she'd just gotten out of something and was diving headfirst into a distraction. No judgment. Then she started talking about how she wants to take cute photos together. I'm like, okay, we haven't even hung out yet, but cool. She says she's planning a content day. Her words, "Let's hang out somewhere vibey and take aesthetic pics. You got the right energy." I'm like, sure. Weird ask, but I'd already been semi-roped in and thought maybe this was just a quirky social media girl thing. Maybe she's trying to build her brand or whatever. She picks a location. This plant-filled brunch spot where everything is beige. The waiters wear beanies indoors, and the drinks come with edible flowers. We meet up, and I'm not gonna lie, she looks incredible. Like the photos weren't even doing her justice. She walks in like she owns the place and gives me this long hug like we've been dating for months. My brain's spinning a little. We sit down, order, and the second the food hits the table, she's like, "Okay, let's get some shots." She pulls out her phone, makes me scoot to her side of the booth, and starts posing like we're a couple in a travel ad. holding my hand, fake laughing, resting her head on my shoulder. At one point, she literally says, "Now look at me like you're obsessed with me." I do it because, honestly, I'm too stunned to say no. She takes like 60 photos, then spends the next 15 minutes editing them while I just sit there sipping a drink and trying to figure out if I'm still on a date or if I accidentally became a model for a fake relationship. After brunch, she's like, "Want to go for a walk? I know a mural nearby that would look great on the grid." I agree, partially because I'm still trying to see where this is going, partially because I'm more really curious. On the walk, she's super affectionate, grabbing my arm, taking boomerangs, asking me to take candid pics of her staring at flowers like she's pondering the meaning of life. And then she drops it. She goes, "Okay, so I have to tell you something, but promise you won't be mad." Never a good start. I say, "Okay." And she goes, "I'm technically married." I literally stop walking. She keeps going like it's no big deal. "It's complicated," she says. "We're not separated, but we're in a weird place. He's been emotionally distant, and I just needed a little spark. Something to make him wake up a bit. He used to get jealous when I post pics with other guys. I just needed to see that people still want me." I ask her, with my whole soul trying not to yell, "So, what was this?" She smiles and says, "You were perfect. You have that look that'll make him nervous. And you're sweet enough that it feels real in the pics." I swear I lost brain cells in that moment. She used me like a human prop. I was a living Instagram strategy. I ask if she's still living with him. She goes, "Yeah, but we're basically roommates. He sleeps on the couch sometimes. It's fine." I ask if he knows she's out with me, and she says, "I told him I had a shoot," which isn't a lie. She genuinely did not see a problem with it. She thought it was harmless, said it was just social media. He doesn't even follow me anymore, but his sister does. She'll show him. Trust me, it's a whole thing. I told her I wasn't comfortable being part of her scheme, and she tried to guilt trip me. Said I was ruining the momentum. Asked if I could just be cool for like one more hour. Wanted me to take one more pic. Just one where we're holding hands in front of this past a wall so it looked like a date night. I said no. I told her she was manipulative. She got mad. Said I was being dramatic and that I clearly don't understand how relationships work in the real world. Real world. Girl, you dragged a stranger into your marriage to use for Instagram bait, and you're calling me dramatic. I left. She didn't follow. Just stayed by the mural, scrolling through the photos and picking filters like nothing happened. She texted me later with, "I think I pushed too hard, sorry. You're cool though. I'll tag you in one of the pics if you want. You looked hot in that second one." I blocked her. Then I checked her profile a few days later, still active. Same pics, same bio. No sign of the husband. But guess what popped up on her Instagram? A photo of us. Caption, "Some people bring light when you least expect it." It got like 200 likes. Her sister commented, "Yes, finally." I hope her husband saw it and choked on his cereal. I also hope he knows I wasn't in on it. I was just trying to get Coruscant and maybe flirt a little, not co-star in the emotional manipulation Olympics. So, yeah, Vanessa flirted heavy, roped me into a full-on couples photo shoot, then revealed she was married and just wanted content to emotionally poke her husband into proposing again. Welcome to dating in 2025. So Dylan was one of those guys who had a really clean vibe on Tinder. Like, too clean. His profile looked like it was reviewed by HR. No shirtless mirror pics, no fishing photos, no weird gym grind captions. He had soft lighting, sweaters, a dog in one photo, and a bio that said, "Working on myself one boundary at a time." It was giving emotionally mature, which, in hindsight, should have made me suspicious immediately. We matched and started talking, and he was fine. Not hilarious, not boring. Kind of felt like I was talking to someone who read a lot of self-help books and wanted me to know it, but it wasn't annoying yet. Every text had punctuation. Every joke had a follow-up about emotional context. He asked me a lot of questions, which I liked, and not just basic stuff like, "What do you do?" He asked what my relationship with conflict was. When do I need when I'm overwhelmed? What my attachment style is. I thought it was weirdly deep for Tinder, but I figured, hey, maybe he's in therapy and just wants something serious. Could be worse. We met for coffee. He was taller than I expected, wore those rounded glasses that make people look like friendly philosophers, and had this kind of soft-spoken vibe like he didn't raise his voice even when stubbed his toe. He was definitely the kind of person who says, "I hear you," instead of, "Yeah." Again, weirdly mature but not creepy. First date, chill. We talked about music, some movie that had just come out, and, of course, therapy. He mentioned his therapist like 6 times. At first, I thought he was joking, like being self-aware about it, but no. He really just brought her up like she was a character in his life. My therapist says I tend to overextend emotionally. My therapist says I fear being misunderstood. My therapist says I need to slow down and trust his comfort. I didn't mind it. I mean, better than someone who thinks therapy is a scam and healing means going to the gym once. He seems self-reflective. That's supposed to be good, right? Second date, we went for a walk in the park. He brought snacks in a tote bag because of course he did. We sat on a bench, and he asked if I felt safe in the moment. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He looked dead serious. I said, "Yeah, I'm good." And he nodded like he was logging it in a mental file. But then he started asking more questions, like deeper. What's your earliest memory of disappointment? Do you think you were seen emotionally as a child? I joked that he sounded like a therapist, and he just smiled and said, "I want to be one. I'm in a master's program right now." Oh, okay, cool. Still a little intense for date 2, but I figured maybe this is just how he connects. He kept asking and I kept answering because, honestly, he made it feel easy. It didn't feel invasive. It felt curious, like he wanted to understand people, not control them. By the third date, we were texting every day. Still intense, still kind of philosophical, but consistent. He'd ask how I was sleeping, if I'd been taking breaks from screens. He sent me a podcast episode about grief, even though I hadn't said anything sad. Just thought you might find it interesting. I didn't listen to it. We went out for dinner that night, and he brought up the idea of relational mirrors. He said dating can show us what we still need to heal. I agreed, kind of. He said it reminded him of someone he dated once who needed to be seen but didn't trust being seen. I didn't know how to respond to that, like thanks or sorry. That night after dinner, I crashed at his place. Nothing wild, just a sleepover. He made tea, lit a candle, had like 6 different books stacked by the bed. We talked for a bit, and before I passed out, I remember him saying, "You're really good data." I was half asleep and didn't even process it. Next morning, I woke up before him and noticed his laptop open on the desk. Normally, I'd never snoop, but the screen was still on, and what I saw was my own name. Like my full name. Typed out in a Google Doc titled, "Relational Behavior Study, Field Notes." I froze. I scrolled a little. There were literal paragraphs, not just random notes. Full breakdowns. Subject exhibits anxious tendencies when discussing vulnerability. Over-explains in moments of discomfort. Uses humor to redirect. So you BJC. I kept reading. He had notes from every date. Observations. Hoods. Even the bench conversation, word for word. When asked about safety, subject laughed reflexively, indicating possible discomfort with direct emotional inquiry. I swear I stopped breathing. I took a picture of the screen. I didn't touch anything else, just sat there staring at it until he woke up. When he walked out, I asked him flat out, "What is this?" He looked at the screen and didn't even try to close it. Just shrugged and said, "It's for a psych class. We're doing observational reports based on real interactions. It's not graded, it's just part of the process." I go, "You were writing about me. Taking notes on our dates like I'm a science experiment." He says, "You said you were okay with deep questions. I assumed you knew this was part of how I process people. I wasn't trying to manipulate you. I'm studying you the way I study myself." I just stared at him. He really didn't think he did anything wrong. Said it wasn't personal, that he didn't share it with anyone, that was safe. That was his favorite word. Safe. I told him I felt violated. That this wasn't observation, this was documenting without consent. He said, "You consented by participating in authentic emotional exchange." Like that made any kind of sense. I got my stuff and left. He texted me later saying he hoped I'd reflect on what came up for me emotionally in that moment. I blocked him. A few weeks later, one of my friends matched with him on Hinge and sent me his profile. Same guy. Different name, new pics, same bio. Still talking about therapy. still asking questions like, what's your love language when you're triggered? So, yeah, Dylan talked nonstop about therapy, boundaries, healing, the whole package. Meanwhile, he was literally using our conversations as data for a psych class, writing essays about my attachment responses like I was a lab rat. And he never even said thank you for the tea. I matched with Anna during one of those weeks where I was lying to myself about just seeing what's out there. But in reality, I was swiping at red lights and ghosting people before the conversation even started. She stood out because she wasn't trying too hard. Her photos weren't overly edited. Her bio was one sentence. I like sour candy and people who don't flake. Simple. Fair. She looked like she read actual books and had good taste in music, which is rare. We matched, started talking, and I'll admit, the vibe was pretty good. She had that low-key sarcasm that made everything sound like a joke, but not in an exhausting way. We had decent banter, talked about trash TV, swapped playlists. She made fun of me for not having Spotify Premium. I made fun of her for saying she liked black licorice. It was working. First date was a dive bar. She showed up in this oversized flannel, no makeup, hair in a claw clip, and still managed to look better than people who try for hours. She ordered whiskey like she did it all the time and talked about how she used to volunteer at a zoo because monkeys are more emotionally honest than men. I laughed, she laughed, we stayed out longer than we planned. I left thinking she was actually the chillest person I'd been out with in a while. We hung out a few more times. A mix of low-key stuff, Raymond Knight, dumb indie movies, hanging at her place while her cat tried to kill me from under the couch. I never got any weird vibes. She was a little intense, but in that way where she just seemed tired of wasting time. Said she didn't do fake talking stages, which I respected. I figured we were slowly heading into something legit. Then she texts me one Wednesday and says, random ask, would you want to come to a dinner thing at my mom's place Saturday night? Nothing formal, just food, wine, awkward stories. I paused because dinner at someone's mom's house feels like a stage 5 commitment move. We hadn't even hit the leave a toothbrush milestone yet, but she framed it like it wasn't a big deal. Said her mom hosts these things every few weeks, invites random people, and it's super casual. She'd also promised amazing pasta and free wine. I caved. Saturday rolls around. I show up semi-dressed, not like suit level, but better than jeans and a hoodie. I bring a bottle of wine because I was raised right. The house is way nicer than I expected. Like Pinterest exploded. Big front porch. Cozy lighting, handles that probably cost more than my phone bill. I'm already nervous. Anna greets me at the door and gives me a kiss on the cheek, which is new. She whispers, just follow my lead tonight, okay? And before I can ask what that means, she pulls me into the living room. And immediately, she introduces me as her fiancé. Not this is my friend. Not this is someone I've been seeing. No, she literally says, everyone, this is my fiancé. Like it's nothing. Like we've been ring shopping and arguing about napkin colors for weeks. I blink. No one else does. They all light up. Her mom goes, oh my God, finally. Her aunt claps. Her dad pats me on the back like I just got drafted to the NFL. Someone hands me a drink. I am in hell. I pull her aside, trying to stay cool and ask what is happening. She looks me dead in the eyes and says, I'm sorry. I should have warned you. I told my mom I was engaged a few weeks ago because she kept asking if I was gonna die alone. I didn't think she'd throw a dinner party about it. I said, why would you say that? And she goes, I didn't expect it to go this far. But you're here now, and honestly, you're doing great. I can't leave, now without making a scene. So I stay. And the rest of the night is pure, uncut chaos. Her family asks how we met. I make something up about meeting in a bookstore. Anna nods and says I recommended her a book about healing through movement, which is a total lie, but somehow makes me sound deep. They ask what the proposal was like. Anna says it was intimate and emotional. I say I cried. Her grandma tears up. Someone asks when the wedding is. Anna blurts out next spring like she's already booked the venue. Her cousin wants to see the ring. Anna says it's getting revised. I pretend to go check on the wine. The entire night, I'm locked into this fake narrative. I learned that Anna's mom is obsessed with weddings. That her aunt already has a Pinterest board named Anna's Big Day. That her ex was such a disaster. Everyone is just relieved she'd found someone who looks stable. I drink way too much wine. At some point, Anna grabs my hand under the table and whispers, "You're doing amazing. I owe you dinner for this." Like I'm an actor on a set, and she's the director. Eventually, people start leaving. Her mom hugs me and says, "Thank you for loving her." I just smile and die inside a little. When we're finally alone, I ask her again, "Why the hell would you fake an engagement?" She shrugs and says, "I panicked. My mom was being intense, and you seem like the kind of guy who could pull it off if it ever came to this." Like, thanks, I guess, for trusting my improv skills. I leave her house that night feeling like I just ran a marathon in dress shoes. The next day, she texts me like nothing happened. "Last night was so fun. Also, we killed it. I don't even know how to respond." I stopped seeing her after that. It wasn't even dramatic. I just slowly faded out. She didn't fight it. Maybe she knew she pushed too far. Maybe she was waiting for her next fake fiancé. I don't know. All I know is I went to what I thought was a chill dinner party and left as someone's future husband in the eyes of 15 strangers. So Eric was one of those rare Tinder matches that seemed weirdly normal, like suspiciously grounded. No cringe bio, no shirtless mirror pics, no weird CEO of making you laugh energy. Just 3 clean photos, one of him hiking, one candid of him laughing with a dog, solid move, and one where he's holding a mug and looking out a window like he just had a deep thought. His bio said, "Off the grid but emotionally available. I cook. I read. I'm real." Of course, that last word, real, now haunts me. We matched on a Thursday, and he messaged me first. Straightforward, nothing weird. Said something about my music taste being criminally good, and asked about my favorite underappreciated album. I liked the vibe. Not too much, not too little, just confident enough to not give me the ick. But from the beginning, I noticed he didn't use social media, like at all. No Instagram, no Twitter, no LinkedIn. Nothing. And I don't mean he didn't share it. I mean, I looked and it was just nothing. Normally that would set off alarm bells, but he joked about it up front. Said he worked in cybersecurity and liked keeping his footprint small. Said he liked living offline on purpose. And honestly, that sounded kind of hot at the time. I'd just gotten out of a situationship with a guy who would post cryptic sad quotes on his story every time we fought, so the idea of someone not even having a story was appealing. We went on our first date after 3 days of messaging. Met up at a bar he picked, kind of low-key, not trendy, but not a dive either. He showed up early. He looked good, like better than his pics, but still him. He dressed simple, smelled great, made solid eye contact. Said how like we were already old friends. The date itself was kind of perfect. We talked for hours. Music, childhood, weird fears. He asked questions like he actually wanted to know the answers. No love bombing, no weird vibes, just good. He said he'd moved here a year ago for work. Claimed he was from a small town. Said he didn't really talk to his family much, but not in a dramatic way, just kind of distanced. He talked about books he liked, the best soup he ever made, and how much he hated streaming services. At one point he said, "I like when people remember things the hard way. It keeps stuff real." I thought that was poetic. Now I realize it was probably rehearsed. We went on 4 dates total. All great. Cooking at his place, going on a hike, late night drive. One night, while I was sitting on his couch drinking tea made from loose leaves, because of course, I asked him about his past. I said something like, "So who were you before all this?" And he just smiled and said, "A different guy in a different place." I thought he was being deep. Turns out he was just being literal. The unraveling started because of the dumbest thing. I tagged him in a story. Just a blurry pic of us at a coffee shop. Not even romantic. Just that this guy likes oat milk. And within an hour, I get a DM from someone I don't know. The account was private, no profile picture. And the message just said, "Is this Eric from Denver?" I replied, "I don't know where he's from, but he lives in Portland now." She replies, "You need to call me." She sends me her number. I wait a full hour, pacing in my room, freaking out, trying to figure out if I'm about to get stalked or sued. Then I call. This woman, let's call her Mara, answers and immediately says, "I think we're dating the same man." Turns out she was dating someone named Eric. Same height, same face, same voice, but the Eric she knew lived in Denver, and he wasn't named Eric. His name was Stephen, and he was married. She found my story because she saw a post he forgot to delete from a shared cloud folder. That's how she got my Instagram. That's how she found the picture. That's how I found out that Eric was actually Stephen, with a whole ass wife, in a whole ass other state. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to. So I did the deep dive I should have done on day one. I reverse searched the only photo I had of him where his face was fully visible. Nothing came up. No tags, no Facebook, no wedding registries, just a few faint links to some old high school sports archives from like 2009 under the name Stephen, the same name she gave me. I confronted him via text first. Asked him, "Hey, weird question, but are you married?" He didn't reply for 6 hours. Then he sends, "This is complicated, and I never meant to hurt anyone." I asked, "Is your name even Eric?" He says, "Not legally." Not legally. I asked him to call me, and he actually did, which surprised me. He sounded tired, like he'd been expecting this. He said he wasn't happy in his marriage. Said he'd been living a double life for about a year. Said he needed an escape and didn't think I'd actually catch feelings, as if I was supposed to be a vacation or something. He said Eric was a name he picked because it felt more like who he was now, which would have been poetic if it wasn't straight up a lie. Then he says, "I didn't lie about how I felt with you. I just lied about everything else." Cool. Thanks for the emotional fortune cookie. I blocked him, reported his Tinder, told Mare everything. She was wrecked. Said it made sense. Said she'd noticed he was gone a lot but thought he was working late. Said she hadn't told his wife yet but probably would. I told her I was sorry. She said, "I wish we met under literally any other circumstance." The wildest part, I kept wondering what his real story was, not Stephen the husband, not Eric the Tinder poet, just whoever he was underneath all that. But then I realized there was no underneath. Everything he told me was stitched together. He'd been borrowing identities like jackets. Different names, different cities, different versions of himself depending on the audience. I wasn't dating a man. I was dating a glitch in the system. So, yeah, Eric had no online presence because he wasn't real. He was a married guy using a dead cousin's name, confirmed by Mara, to run around the country starting soft boy side quests, and then costing before the credits rolled. I just wanted someone emotionally available. Instead, I got someone legally unavailable with multiple names and a wife and another zip code. Okay, so Julia was hot in that I know I'm hot, but I'm gonna act like I'm Loki way. Her Tinder profile felt like it had a PR team. Soft lighting, lots of shots in nature, a dog in one photo that I'm now convinced wasn't even hers, and a quote in her bio that said, "I like slow burns and reckless decisions." It made no sense. I was intrigued. We matched at like 1 a.m., which should have been a clue that this wasn't going to be a normal situation. She messaged first, said something like, "You look like trouble, but in a good way," which felt like a recycled line, but I wasn't gonna complain. We talked until 3 a.m., just straight vibes. She was witty, a little chaotic, kind of flirty, but not in the send pics kind of way. I was into it. First date, she picked the spot. This dimly lit taco place with $4 margaritas and way too many succulents. She showed up in this oversized hoodie and perfectly messed up hair, like she tried exactly hard enough to make it seem like she didn't try at all. I remember thinking, I could definitely fall for this girl if I'm not careful. Turns out, that was exactly the plan. We hit it off immediately. She was magnetic in that way that makes you talk too fast and overshare weird facts about your childhood. She laughed at all my jokes, even the ones I didn't think landed. She kept touching my arm in that casual but not casual way. And when I dropped her off, she said, "This was fun. We should do it again soon." Texted me before I even got home. Date 2 was her inviting me over for homemade pasta and a low-key movie night. We ended up drinking wine, playing stupid card games, and talking for hours. She asked a million questions. About my family, about my exes, about what I wanted long term. I remember thinking, wow, this is kind of deep for a second date. But she had this way of making everything feel like it made sense. Then came the third date. She invited me to this rooftop thing her friend was throwing. A chill night, music, drinks, people vibing. She introduced me to everyone like we were already a thing. "This is the guy I've been telling you about. He's great, right? I felt like I was being onboarded into a relationship I hadn't applied for yet, but I wasn't mad about it. She was charming, smart, affectionate. I let my guard down. A little too fast. At one point, we were sitting on a couch near the edge of the rooftop, just the two of us, and she looked at me and said, "You're kind of great, you know that." I said something dumb like, "You're not so bad yourself." She smiled, leaned her head on my shoulder, and said, "How long do you think it usually takes for someone to fall in love?" I laughed. I thought it was a rhetorical question. Then she looked up at me, dead serious, and said, "You think you could ever fall for someone like me?" And I froze, because yeah, I probably could. I could feel myself sliding into that headspace. But something about the way she said it, I don't know. It felt rehearsed, like she was waiting to see what I'd say. I dodged and just said, "Maybe, if things keep going the way they are." She nodded, smiled again, said, "Interesting." I should have known right then. The way she said it, like she just collected a data point. The next morning, I woke up to a text from a number I didn't know. "Hey, just a heads up, if you're seeing Julia, you might want to know she and her sister are doing this stupid game where they compete to see how fast they can get Tinder guys to say, 'I love you.' You're number 5. I stared at the message for like 5 solid minutes. At first, I thought it was fake, a prank, maybe someone trolling her. But then I scrolled through her socials and found a comment on one of her recent posts. A girl, her sister, I figured, had commented, "Number 3 went too easy. Let's see how long 5 holds out." I was number 5. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted to give her a chance to come clean. So I played it cool, kept texting, waited to see what she'd do. And sure enough, she started ramping up. More flirty texts. Random voice notes saying she was thinking about me. Pictures of the food she was making next time I come over. And then the bomb, she asked if I wanted to come to her friend's wedding with her in 2 weeks. Said it might be fun to play pretend for the weekend. I texted back. "So is this the part where I say I love you and you win?" No emoji. Just sent it and waited. She left me on read for 8 hours. Then she finally replied, "It wasn't supposed to go that far. You were just supposed to be one of the easy ones." Sorry. Like, what? You were just supposed to be easy. I replied, "So what was the plan?" "Get me to fall for you, say the words. And then what?" "Screenshot it for your sister that hits fantasy football." She said, "It's not like that. It started as a joke. We got bored. But honestly, you're not like the others." Oh, cool. The classic "you're different" after using me like a point system. Thanks. I didn't respond after that. I unmatched her. Blocked her. Moved on. But I won't lie, it stung. Not because I was in love or anything, but because I was starting to care. I was starting to picture what it'd be like if things kept going. I let her into my head a little too fast, and she used it like a playground for her weird little Sevlin game. So, yeah, Julia was dating dudes on Tinder just to see how fast she could get them to say, "I love you," as part of a bet with her sister. I was number 5. I didn't say it. And I guess that made me the loser in her eyes. But I'd rather lose than be one of the guys she won't on. Okay, so Zach was one of those guys who looked like he was trying to rebrand himself after being emotionally unavailable for 5 years. You know the type. Clean profile, simple photos, no shirtless selfies, and a bio that said something suspiciously vague like healing plus building plus being present. It gave off reformed boy energy, but I was intrigued. His pictures were normal enough. Smiling with friends, standing on a cliff, some random photo of a latte, and a book that definitely wasn't his. But his messages were better than average. He asked real questions, said lol like a normal human. Didn't make it weird or sexual. He had this weirdly mature vibe mixed with just enough wit to make me curious. After a couple of days texting, he suggested a beach picnic. Not a walk, not a coffee. A full-on picnic. I was like, who plans this much for a first date in 2025? I asked if this was normal for him, and he said, "I just like putting effort into people I see potential with." Okay, relax, Nicholas Sparks. but I was intrigued enough to say yes. He told me not to bring anything, which low-key stressed me out because I hate showing up empty-handed, but he insisted. Said it was taken care of. He picked at the beach. He'd be the exact drop pin, and even offered to pick me up, which I declined because I've seen enough true crime TikToks to know better. I get there and he's already set up, full blanket, snacks, a cooler, a Bluetooth speaker playing some mellow playlist. He brought sandwiches, fresh fruit, sparkling water, and some weird hummus I pretended to like. He even had a little umbrella for shade. I was genuinely impressed. It felt like a weird combination of thoughtful and trying way too hard, but I rolled with it. The vibe was good. He was easy to talk to in person. A little intense, like he'd lock in on you when you spoke like nothing else in the world existed. But I figured he was just being intentional or whatever. He asked me about my family, my dreams, my relationship history, and somehow even made, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" Sound casual. After maybe an hour, we started talking about dating in general, and I mentioned how annoying it is when people are glued to their phones during a date. He agreed hard, like immediately launched into this whole thing about how presence is the rarest currency now, and how he watches for that in people. I didn't think much of it at the time. I just figured, cool, he's into mindfulness. Good for him. We spent almost 3 hours out there, ate, talked, even just sat in silence for a bit watching the water. I didn't touch my phone once. Not on purpose. I just wasn't bored. It was chill. He walked me back to my car, gave me a really good hug, and said, "You're different. I like this energy." I drove home thinking, okay, maybe that wasn't just a nice date. Maybe this guy actually means what he says. Then the next day, he sends me this long message that starts with, "Hey, I just wanted to say thank you for yesterday. It meant more than you know." I'm thinking, oh, sweet. In the next line, "I've been running something I call a loyalty test. It's not for everyone, but I believe in intentional dating. I watch to see if someone checks their phone while we're together, especially on a first date. You didn't. That tells me you have respect, presence, and the ability to focus on connection over distraction. You passed." Excuse me, loyalty test. I reread it like 4 times. He was serious. This man planned a whole date to test me. Like I was applying for a job at his private little cult. I replied, "Wait, this was a test." And he said, "Not in a manipulative way. I just believe in qualifying the energy I allow in my life." Which is a really long way of saying I make up games in my head and treat people like chess pieces. He sent a few more messages after that, basically patting himself on the back for being so intentional. I was still trying to decide if it was hilarious or terrifying. But then, get this, the next day I was sent him a meme because I'm dumb and was still trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. And the message won't go through. I checked his profile. Gone. I tried finding him on Instagram. Also gone. This man blocked me. Blocked me. After telling me I passed his imaginary test. I sat there staring at my phone like, what is wrong with people? I didn't even say anything crazy. I hadn't argued, I hadn't ghosted. I hadn't even made fun of the fact that he basically treated our date like a covert spy mission. I passed the test, dude. What more do you want? And here's the kicker. A week later, I get a DM from some random girl. Says she saw a tweet I made. Because yes, I subtweeted this whole thing and asked if it was about a guy named Zach. She sends a photo. It's him. Same smile, same eyes, same exact beach set. She said he did the same thing to her. Beach date, sandwiches, no phones, then blocked her 2 days later. Apparently, he's running some weird experiment where he only dates people to test how loyal they are to strangers and then cuts them off once they meet the standard. Like the moment you prove you're cool, he loses interest. Probably because he needs to keep chasing the what if. So, yeah. Zach took me on a Pinterest-worthy beach picnic, watched me like a hawk to see if I checked my phone, told me I passed his loyalty test, and then blocked me the next day like I was a pop quiz he got bored grading. You can't make this stuff up. I matched with Tina on a Wednesday night. I remember cause I was watching some random crime doc in bed and half scrolling through the app with one hand, not expecting anything. She looked kinda artsy in her pics, like film camera slung around her neck, blurry shots of rooftops, that sort of thing, but her bio was just one line. I'll roast your music taste if you let me. So obviously I had to swipe. She messaged first, which was rare and kinda cool. Her opening line was actually funny too. Like she had this sarcastic energy that made me keep checking my phone just to see what she'd say next. We got into this stupid debate about who has worst fans, Arctic Monkeys or the 1975, and somehow it spiraled into talking about our worst dates, favorite childhood snacks, dream cities, stuff that's so easy to overthink but didn't feel forced with her. It was one of those convos where it just flows and hours feel like minutes. We kept talking for like 4 days straight. I was actually kind of surprised I hadn't met someone like her before in the area. She lived one suburb over. Her photos were all sort of moody, her captions weirdly cryptic, but there was something chill about it, like she didn't try too hard. It felt refreshing compared to all the copy-paste bios and gym mirror selfies. We agreed to meet for drinks at this rooftop place downtown. It was kind of overcast that night, but still warm, and she showed up in this giant hoodie and ripped jeans, which made me feel overdressed, but she pulled it off. She was a bit shorter than I expected, hair tied up messy, eyes like she was trying to figure out if I was gonna say something dumb. But it wasn't awkward. If anything, it felt too easy. We stayed till the bar closed and walked around for a bit after. She didn't want me to walk her to her car, just gave me this half smile and said, "We'll talk." Which we did, a lot. We ended up hanging out almost every weekend for a month. She'd invite me over for random movie nights or want to meet at a park to just sit around and talk. One night we ended up driving around with no destination, just listening to music and talking about the weirdest stuff, like if you'd rather lose all your memories or never make any new ones. Deep stuff, but not in a forced way. She made you think about things differently, like she saw through all the surface level crap. Then one night I was at my friend Jamie's place, and we were doing that stupid game where you show your matches to each other. Jamie's flipping through my photos and says something like, "Hey wait, wasn't this the girl you talked to a while ago? The one with the plant obsession." I'm confused and ask what she means, and she pulls up a screenshot of a profile from a few months back. The girl's name was Bella, same age as Tina, but different photos. Still the same general vibe, but more Pinteresty long captions, lots of books in the background, that sort of thing. And yeah, the photos were different, but the face, it was her. No doubt. At first I thought maybe it was an old account she deleted. People change their profiles, right? But then I remembered I had actually matched with Bella. Briefly, like we talked for maybe 2 days, and then she unmatched. I remember cause she asked really specific stuff. Like if I usually swipe on girls who post thirst traps, or if I was talking to anyone else seriously. Stuff that at the time felt kinda intense for just chatting, but I brushed it off. So I go back through my photos and compare them. It's 100% the same person. And the more I think about it, the more it starts to make sense. That Bella account had asked me about my past dating stuff. And Tina had too, but in a way that felt like a follow-up. It was like a puzzle that slowly locked into place. Like I'd been part of some weird test without even realizing it. Next time we hung out, I brought it up, not confrontational, just casually like, "Hey, do you know someone named Bella?" She got super quiet and then straight up admitted it. She said she'd made the Bella profile just to see if I was one of those guys who tries to be deep but is actually just a walking red flag. Her words, she said she'd gotten burned before and didn't want to waste time. So she created a fake profile, matched with me, asked all those questions to see if I'd give different answers than I would later with her. I didn't even know how to respond. Like, I get being cautious. A kid out wanting to get hurt again. But making a whole fake person to scope someone out, that's next level. It felt like the kind of thing someone does when they're already assuming the worst and then waiting for you to prove them right. She didn't even try to deny it. Just kind of looked at me and said, "You passed out, didn't you?" I don't even know what that means. Past what? Her imaginary vibe check. It felt weird. Like I wasn't a person to her, just some theory she needed to test. And the whole time I thought we were just connecting, it turns out I was being low-key interviewed. I didn't ghost her or block her or anything. I just slowly stopped texting back. She didn't push, which makes me think maybe she knew. Maybe that was part of the plan too, hell no. All I know is that it left this weird taste in my mouth. Like it wasn't just about the lying. It was the fact that she couldn't let herself just trust what was happening even a little. And yeah, vague people lie on dating apps all the time. But there's a difference between putting your best photos up and straight up running a little psychological experiment on someone. Every now and then I still see her in my suggested followers or tagged in someone's post. It just feels strange. Like I dated two people and only one of them was real. Anyway, that's how I accidentally passed a test I never signed up for. Matched with Ryan on like the most boring Sunday afternoon of my life. I was in bed, half hungover, scrolling while eating stale popcorn and procrastinating everything I was supposed to be doing. His profile wasn't crazy or anything, pretty normal looking guy, but the first photo was this candid shot of him laughing behind a camera, and the caption said, trying to see the world through new lenses, which sounds super cheesy now that I think about it, but in the moment I was like, okay, cool. He takes pictures, maybe he's artsy, but not full on pretentious. He had other photos too, mostly outdoorsy stuff. Sunsets, rivers, one of those forest paths with golden lighting that looks fake, but somehow isn't. It gave chill vibes. The whole thing felt calm and low effort, like he wasn't trying too hard. Just someone who liked nature and probably took deep breaths more often than I did. His messages were laid back, kind of dry humor, but in that way where you keep wanting to reply because you're curious what he'll say next. Anyway, we talked for a few days. Nothing intense, just sending photos of our dogs, complaining about our coffee addictions, that kind of thing. And he asked if I wanted to go hiking. Not like a full-on mountain trek, just a trail about 40 minutes out that he said he used to go to with his sister. I'm not a huge hiker, but I mentioned that I was trying to get outside more and he remembered, so it felt thoughtful. Plus, the weather was actually decent for once. Overcast, but warm enough for a hoodie and leggings. So we planned it for a Saturday. I met him in this dirt lot off the highway that looked kind of sketchy, but he was already there, leaning against this old Jeep and holding coffee for both of us. I remember thinking, okay, he's actually tall in real life. His voice was quieter than I expected, like the kind of person who doesn't talk just to fill space, which was weirdly nice. We started walking the trail. It was actually super pretty. Tall trees, those long roots that you have to step over like mini speed bumps, birds doing their thing. It smelled like moss and wet leaves. I know that sounds dramatic, but it was peaceful in a way I didn't realize I needed. The whole time he kept stopping to take pictures, like every 10 minutes, sometimes less. I'd be mid-sentence and he'd wander off the path to crouch in a bush and snap like 6 shots of a mushroom or a pile of rocks. At first, I thought it was cute, like he was passionate about it. He'd fiddle with his lens, squint into the distance, mess with the settings. I started making jokes about being the reluctant model and he just kind of smirked, told me I had good light, and took a bunch of photos of me walking ahead or leaning on railings. By the end of it, he said he'd taken over 300 photos, which seemed kinda nuts, but whatever. I figured maybe he was one of those people who takes a bunch to get one good one. I didn't ask to see them or anything. I kind of assumed he'd post them eventually or maybe send me a couple. After that, we went out twice more, once for pho, once to this little bookstore cafe he liked. He was always calm, always kind of half removed, like he was there but also somewhere in his head at the same time, which sounds mysterious but really just meant I had no clue what he was actually thinking. He'd text, but never in full sentences, always with those weird lowercase replies like, yeah, maybe, or ha, true. Somehow I still liked him. Then 2 weeks later, I was doing this group project for school and needed a stock image for our presentation. I was on one of those free photo sites, searching for nature trail or something. And there it was. Like, literally there it was. The exact path we hiked. The same overcast sky. Same leaves. And then I saw another one. And another. And then one with a blurry figure walking slightly ahead of the camera. Hoodie, black leggings, the same tiny stain on my sleeve from where I spilled sauce earlier that day. It was me. I clicked the photographer credit. It was listed under some generic username like Lensway or something close enough to his name to make my stomach do that weird drop thing. And there were so many more. Mushrooms, trees, macro shots of bark, even a weird one of just my shoes next to a rock. They were all up there, tagged and downloaded who knows how many times. I sat there staring at my screen like, did I accidentally model for stock photography? Is that a thing? Do people just do that? I sent him a message that night, kind of half joking, saying, hey, did I just find my feed on a stock photo site? He replied like an hour later with, ha, yeah, I upload some of my stuff there sometimes. You looked cool in that one. That was it. That was the whole explanation. I didn't even know what to say. No heads up. No, hey, by the way, I put your face on the internet. Just a chill, you looked cool, and that was apparently enough. It felt weird. Not like full-blown betrayal or anything, but more like I'd been a prop. Like I unknowingly helped him build this aesthetic, this vibe, this whole carefully curated digital portfolio that other people were now using for their school projects and websites. And the weirdest part, he wasn't even trying to be shady about it. It was like he genuinely didn't see anything wrong with it. After that, I kind of pulled back. I stopped replying right away. He noticed but didn't really ask. Just sent a couple of a good. Texts spaced out over a week, and then nothing. I still check the site sometimes. He's uploaded more. Not of me, but of other hikes, more trees. The occasional person walking just out of focus. And now I always wonder, do they know? Did he ask them? Or are they just random people who will never find themselves mid-stride on a dental blog or travel brochure? Anyway, that was my brief brush with the stock photo world. No modeling contract, no credit, just me. Immortalized as woman walking alone in woods. Honestly, pretty on brand.